Well, for more on these rising tensions, I'm joined now by Duyeon Kim. She's a senior fellow at the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. Duyeon, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. What's
your take on this? We're hearing a lot out of North Korea. The tensions seem to be rising, and yet we're getting these reports that there's not that much behind it. Is this rhetoric or is it real?
Well, the situation really is serious. We've heard this type of rhetoric before, but it does feel different this time. It is serious because they are declaring a state of war, so to speak.
They haven't done that before?
Well, it's also serious because they've nullified the armistice that has ended the Korean War. And so they clearly are ratcheting up tensions, and they're creating a war-like situation on the Korean Peninsula. Now, it's also serious because, at least in rhetoric, we are seeing a North Korea that is militarily ready, at least in rhetoric. We're seeing U.S. and South Korean militaries jointly ready militarily. And so this considerably widens the room for any mistake, for any errors that could trigger or spiral into some sort of conflict.
And we're getting reports as we're going on air that the US has moved a destroyer capable of shooting down any North Korean missiles into waters in that region. What do you make of that?
Well, we're seeing movement by the U.S. military and Navy on various fronts in recent days and recent weeks. Now, this seems to be a display of the U.S.'s support for its allies, for South Korea and Japan. A lot of it also seems to be symbolic as well, sending a message to North Korea.
You mentioned mistakes, that there's a possibility in this kind of a tense situation of a mistake being made, perhaps of the South Koreans responding to something or being pushed into responding to something. What's the kind of thing that you're thinking of? What is the kind of situation that could force conflict on the peninsula?
Well, the conventional wisdom is that the North may not be the first one to throw the punch, so to speak, but could provoke just enough, just short of war, perhaps something as we've seen in 2010 with the shelling of a South Korean island called Yeonpyeong Island. Now, a scenario like that would prompt a South Korean reaction.
Much more than we saw in 2010?
Well, South Korea apparently seems to be ready for that. We've heard the new South Korean President Park Geun-hye order her military to be not only on full alert, but she has said that she has basically given her military permission to retaliate without a second word from Seoul. So that shows how ready South Korea is. And as you mentioned, this really is serious because if the North pushes even to that extent that would prompt or force South Korea jointly with the U.S. to react, that could potentially trigger and escalate and spiral into unintentional conflict.
Very worrying scenario there. Duyeon Kim, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Duyeon, thank you.